That's right back, Charlie. Definitely.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, bro. Come on.
You always use that active red line, defending. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again. Special guest settings, man. Before we get into it, introduce yourself, my guy. Let them know who you are, where you're from, what content you do. Obviously, I know about yourself, but if someone was listening for the first time, go ahead, my guy. I see you shaved your head on one video. You're a madman.
Yeah, I did. I had to be a man of my word.
Why was that? Before you carry on, why was that? Because I just saw you doing it.
Jude Bellingham, I made a bet that if Jude doesn't sign for Liverpool, I'm going to shave my head off because I was so certain of it. So obviously he ended up at Real Madrid, so I'm bald now. But yeah, so unfortunately we had to. But I am a man of my word, so I have to do what I say I'm going to do. But I'm happy to be here. Yeah, make sure you guys are liking the video. Make sure you guys are subscribing.
Come on. All his information's in the description when this vid comes out. Subscribe, like, follow on Twitter. He does a lot of stuff on Twitter Spaces and all of that stuff. I see him going back and forth with like even Flawless. You lot are entertainment, man. But I cut you off, bro.
Yeah, listen, Flawless is a headache. Flawless is 100% a headache. Hey, it ain't no entertainment for me. It's just a headache. But big up Flawless, man. Big up everyone as well. And thank you for having me, my brother.
Minor, man. Obviously, you know, I've got you here because you're a Liverpool fan. It's a chance to, you know, both of us, Arsenal and Liverpool alike. The season's gone. What you think was good, what you think was bad. It's neither here nor there. First thing I want to ask you, what's your thoughts on the season? Beyond the obvious, obviously, Liverpool did not do what they've been doing in recent years. Just let me know your thoughts, man. What's your thoughts on the season? What went wrong? What did the players do wrong? What did Klopp do right or wrong? Yeah, just a Liverpool perspective, because obviously you're a Liverpool fan.
Liverpool were crap this year. There's no other ways about it. We're just
you don't mix your words at all.
Listen, other than Chelsea, we've been the most disappointing club this season. You know, you go off.
Don't forget Spurs, mate.
Listen, we're worse than Spurs because who expects anything?
No, man, nah, you can't say that, bro.
Who expects anything of Spurs? Be real. When's the last time you expected anything of them?
That's true. That's true. That's true.
You have to include expectations. You know, with Liverpool, we just came off a Champions League final. We just came off challenging, and then it just kind of all collapsed from last summer, from the last summer transfer window. You know, I know you didn't know me back then, but I was talking about the transfers and how much badly we needed the midfielder.
Take us back to that then. Take us back to that because you kind of said it. So it seems like I wouldn't say you lot predicted this season because no one could have where Liverpool are at. But, you know, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, win it. And you just mentioned it. You know, you didn't bring in midfielders. I know your fans, even when you lot were winning stuff under Klopp and that, you weren't really, you know, is it FSG? You lot weren't really feeling them. You're not really the biggest fans of them. So what happened last summer that led to, obviously, this season?
I mean, last summer we messed up as an institution. We thought we could just run it back. We thought, you know, Darwin Nunez run it back and it's all good. But it wasn't all good. It really wasn't all good. And, you know, there's people in this fan base, like myself, like many others, who called out, you know, the lack of signings, how badly we needed that specific position. And it ended up to bite us. And the start of the season said it all, you know. The draw away at Fulham, the draw at home to Palace, the loss to United, the loss to Napoli. It kind of all started horribly. And we just didn't give ourselves time to fix it. We kind of messed up this whole year. You know, you can't go from challenging for a title and getting to a Champions League final to all the way down to fifth. You know, when a team has a downfall, at least you end up third, fourth, something like that. But we just ended up fully, you know, just absolutely horrible. And you know what it is as well? Here's the thing. We failed as an institution, meaning the ownership, the manager, the players as well. Like, you know, probably other than Alisson, I wouldn't say anyone maintained his level or increased his level this season. The rest of the players all let us down at different points in time this season. Jurgen Klopp, substitutions, tactics, took way too long to do the whole Trent inverted thing. That's another thing as well. He could have done that a lot earlier. Maybe we would have had top four then. But yeah, we just messed up royally, man. We just, you know, it's just the downfall of Liverpool this season. And you did say something that's right. No one expected it to be this bad. Even
Yeah,
people
yeah.
who predicted us to have a little bit of a fall off, they said we might fall off a little bit, but
I
no
still
one
would have thought you would have got top 4 at the minimum, and you could have until what was it, Villa or something like that, where United
Yeah.
just pipped you lot. So yeah, like you
No
said,
one
it's the
expected it to be this bad. No one expected it to be
that,
this bad.
honestly, throughout the season, like you said, with the United game, the Napoli game, I thought, all right, cool. You know what? Start of the season, it's a bit of a wobble. Sooner enough, Liverpool are going to kick into gear. You know, the Anfield roar, all of that sort of stuff. And then it just didn't get there. Like for me, I feel as a non-Liverpool fan, when Klopp first went in, you lot were very naive as a football team. You kind of played the same way from minute 1 to 90. Then before the season before Alisson and Van Dijk came in, you started to improve your game management and just your whole defensive outlook, and them two kind of enhanced that. This season, defensively, I mean, we ain't been the best defensively, and I've been critical on Arsenal, regardless what the stats say. But defensively, the individual errors, you know, the midfield relying on the same play. Ultimately, I just think you kind of stagnated. I do think you miss Mane, but I think regardless of that, there's deeper problems than that. It's just, as you said, like it's been coming, and it's just can't put into words. I'm still kind of shocked that Liverpool have had the season they have, man. Really, man.
Yeah, it's Europa League settings. Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
I'm happy to be out of that, man. We just need to get out of the group stages, and I'm cool, man.
Hey, Thursday night football, man. Back at Topola, Toulouse, you know, all them clubs. I'm ready. I'm ready for all that Europa League Thursday night football.
Red Star and that.
Oh my God, man. Honestly, I saw some of them teams. You know what's the worst part? This is the worst part, right? You know how you get the coefficients next to the team. Of course, Liverpool are going to be in pot 1 in Europa League. Next to our coefficient is like 123. There are teams in the Europa League coefficient 4, 6, 7. We're at 123.
But there's a chance for you lot to win silverware, though, a European trophy. You lot have done it before. And that's why I think you lot are going to hit back next season, because Chelsea, again, as much as I don't want to praise Chelsea, I think the fact that they've kind of like when we were not in Europe full stop is kind of a reset. Europa League, as an Arsenal fan that's been in it for the last few years, I don't want to say you don't have to take it seriously, but you don't have to take it seriously until you get out the group stages. So obviously you can rest players. So I think you lot could rebuild very quickly. I think good players don't become good or bad overnight. I think Trent at times has been terrible, but I think he's got a lot of unnecessary criticism, but now he's returned. I think your defenders, I think it's the back line as well at times, because there's times players are not following runners. Like, what was the last game of the season? I think it was Southampton with you lot, right?
Yeah, Southampton.
Yeah, I couldn't believe. I think that just summed up how you lot have been defending all season. And when
that was the summary of the year, that game
exactly,
right there. That summarized the whole year.
Exactly. And when you've got Van Dijk, Alisson, Trent, whatever you say about him, England international, you shouldn't be defending like that. And defending comes from the top. And I just feel no Liverpool player can say they're happy with their individual performances this season. Who would be your player of the season, if anything, for Liverpool? Yeah, I think you kind of said it with Alisson.
Yeah, I think with Alisson Becker, he's definitely been our player of the season this year, like by far. I don't even think it's a discussion. And you know, this takes me back to like kind of just real conversations. When a goalkeeper is your player of the season, that's never a good sign. It's
You're in
never
trouble,
sign. Never a good sign. You want one of your forwards, a midfielder, even a centre back to be your player of the season. You understand, but when it's a goalkeeper, you know that you're in trouble. And you know, you mentioned there some of the games, and you look at the January period, for example, we had the Wolves 3-0 loss, the Brighton 3-0 loss, then the Brighton FA Cup loss, and then the Madrid game came through as well. So we had a very tough, just this year in 2023 alone, we had a very tough 2 months, January and February, that kind of you know, just messed us up. And earlier on, when you asked me about Liverpool this season, I told you it's a collective failure. I look at Jurgen Klopp, for example. As soon as that Madrid game ended, the 5-2, he should have went to Trent inverted then. We had nothing to play for anyway. There was no more trophies left. There was nothing left. Might as well have tried something new, you know, but I think he waited way too long to try something new. The players let us down. But you're right. That's why I think we can bounce back next season, because the truth is, Trent, Van Dijk, Alisson, Salah, these players didn't wake up and suddenly become bad players. That's
even Salah, he's still been scoring the goals, even though people said he's falling off. Like, I don't like to always look at numbers, but you want your forwards to get numbers. The numbers are there. The proof's in the pudding, sort of thing. So you're right there. Listen, Liverpool are not going to sit down for too long. I hope that you lot do, because it means it's better for us. But I personally can't see it. Who would you say is the worst player then?
By far, the captain, Jordan Henderson, has been by far the absolute worst player this season.
Why? For us non-Liverpool fans, explain to us why.
Can't play football. Lost all his athletic ability. I've generally seen him drop stinkers I haven't seen since the days of Paul Konchesky. Like, I'm talking about
throwback.
Listen, I'm talking about absolute horrible howlers. Like, I'm just talking about bad games. That Leicester game at home, for example, by far the worst performance all year long from any player. Just consistently crap throughout. And he's the reason why we need a midfielder anyway, because he just can't do what he used to do. Thing is, he
Passion
lost
merchant.
his legs. He lost his legs. So athleticism ain't there anymore. And his football ability was never there anyway. But he relied on his athleticism, he relied on his running, etc. He can't even do that anymore. But then you look at as well at the two centre backs, Bambi and Ice Spice, Joe Gomez and Joel Matip. And they just have absolutely capitulated the scene. That last game, that Southampton game, we conceded 4. Gomez and Matip were the centre backs.
Yeah.
Brighton 3-0, Gomez and Matip. Wolves 3-0, Gomez and Matip. The 5-2 against
Man's
Real
got
Madrid. You
receipts.
watch that game. People were doing Trent agenda. You watch that game. Joe Gomez could generally be blamed for like 5 other goals other than the Alisson one. Like, honestly, it's just like some players have just had horrible years for us this year. Some have bounced back, like the ones you mentioned. Van Dijk bounced back. Trent bounced back towards the end. I think Salah had a bounce back period towards the end as well. A couple of players, even Fabinho had a few good games here and there towards the end of the season. But the rest of them, you could point out any of them, and it's just there's nothing good to say about them this year.
That's the thing. That's the thing. You're right. As much as I might not rate Henderson, and I think Trent's a quality player, he's just never going to be a great defender, but he gives you the rest of it. If everyone's kind of playing bad, then it's more of a team thing. It's like Chelsea at this moment. Well, last season has just gone. When everyone is doing terribly, then you kind of have to discount that it's more of a collective thing. What's happened to Joe Gomez? Because a few years ago, he was the bee's knees, and now I know he's had injuries, but yeah, man, it just don't look good, really and truly.
I think since 1920, where we won the champs and the Premier League, I think Joe Gomez was easily the best English centre back at the time. And I think a couple of knee surgeries later, I think his levels just dropped, confidence dropped. He's a momentum player as well. Have had, few very bad performances since then as well. Even kind of last season, I still remember a game we played in the Carabao Cup against Preston North End, where he had just had an absolutely horrible game as well. So I think it might be the surgeries, it might be, the injuries, maybe stuff like that got to him, maybe lack of playing time. I don't know. But with Joe Gomez, there's definitely been a drop-off. Even Matip dropped off. So, we're kind of reliant on Van Dijk or Konate, which is why we're looking at the centre-back as well this summer.
You're right, man. We're going to get onto that. But let's talk about someone that's actually at your club. In a day and age where your club, my club, every club has spent big money on players to varied success. Alexis McAllister, absolute player. I think he fits your system. 35-odd million in a day and age where it's stupid money being spent. That's an absolute steal. What did you make of it, man? What do you think that means for your club? Do you think there's more work to be done in that regards?
It feels so good to have a midfielder who can pass the ball. Like, that is just... You understand, the benchmark has been in hell.
The bar's been on the floor, man, this year.
The bar is on the floor. I'm just happy we have a midfielder who can play football. I'm excited because he can actually play the sport. Instead of him being a runner or all over the place, we can actually have someone who can play there. Listen, I think 35 million is an absolute steal. In today's, just for reference, this is a player we both know. 7 years ago, Liverpool signed Oxlade-Chamberlain for more than that. 7 years ago, we signed Oxlade-Chamberlain for more than that. So you look at that now, 35 million in today's market is probably like what, maybe 10 million 10 years ago, 5 million 10 years ago. So I think it's an absolute steal. It's an absolute bargain. But the three most impressive things about McAllister is, number one, in the World Cup, yes, he's a World Cup winner, but there's something even more impressive about that World Cup run is he never looked out of place. You never watched Argentina. You went like, oh, McAllister.
Yeah, what's he doing there? Why did he get called up? No.
Yeah, he looks like he belongs next to the Messis, next to the Di Marias, next to the best of the best in the world. So he looks like he belongs on that team. The other thing is he's Premier League proven, which means when we go away to Old Trafford, away to the Emirates, away to the Etihad, he's been there, he's done that. So he's not like his first time there. And the third thing is he's actually, this is something I kind of realized more as I did more research on him. He's actually very versatile. He can play in a 6,
8, 10, 6, out wide.
8,
he's sick, man.
Press resistant, can pass the ball, nothing.
Such a player.
Honestly, there's nothing more you can ask for.
I'm so jealous. I hope he flops, but I'm so jealous. So jealous.
And his nickname sounds so good already because he's wearing number 10. It's like Mac 10. It's like a weapon you use on Call of Duty and just get
yeah.
Like, it's just, that's what it sounds like.
Looks like Messi as well.
I'm happy. But here's the thing, Deluded, I'm going to be real with you. when it comes to this summer, because with McAllister could be the part of an absolutely incredible package or a horrible package. For us Liverpool fans, it ain't about just getting one guy. It's now about getting quality and quantity. So we actually need bodies in there. So we need like McAllister could be the part of an unbelievable 3, 4, 5 player package, or he could be a part of a bad 3-player package. If, for example, you wake up tomorrow, you see Liverpool have signed James Ward-Prowse, suddenly McAllister ain't looking as exciting anymore because we just got James Ward-Prowse next to him. So we've got to do it as a collective this summer. It has to be like, it's the package deal concept, essentially. As a package, is it good?
What areas do you need to address? Because you vaguely touched on it midfield. I'd assume centre-back. Like Liverpool fans, obviously you live and breathe the football club. If you talk to me as an Arsenal fan, priorities like you has to be in midfield. I would say another option at right back, centre-half. If you could, another winger or a striker. What areas are you lot looking at?
Yeah, you touched on it there, 100%. For us, midfield is the absolute priority.
I think everyone needs a midfielder.
Keita leaving, Milner's left, Henderson can't play football, Elliott ain't really a midfielder, Curtis ain't, like, he's just not consistent enough. So you're really looking at only Thiago and Fabinho in there. There's actually been reports that Liverpool could sign up to 3 midfielders, some people saying even 4 midfielders this summer. Now, we know they aren't going to be like 80 million, 90 million midfielders, but we are going to, we're going to get players in there regarding that position. So I think midfield is absolute priority. Centre-backs priority as well, because all 4 centre-backs are injury-prone. Van Dijk's injury-prone, Konate, Gomez, and Matip, all 4 have an injury.
Scary, man.
Yeah, so the last thing you want is the season starting and you win your first 5 games and then suddenly Van Dijk's down and you're like, oh my God, here we go again. So we definitely need a centre-back. And we might sign a full-back as well. A full-back as well, either right or left. I suspect probably a right-back, as you said. But you look at other positions, for example, in the forward line, I don't think we need anyone. I think, we've got goals.
Forward, you're right. Unless you can find someone that's top quality, that's too good to be turned down. I don't think that's an area.
You don't watch Liverpool and think we need goals.
Like, man, really you got Salah, you got Jota, you got Darwin's all right. He's never going to be the most pleasing on the eye, but I've always backed Darwin Núñez, as shown in my videos. I think that's not an area in it. Unfortunately, as you know, your strikers can be great. If your midfield and defense are not switched on, they're irrelevant because the ball needs to go from one side to the other. You are right. You're right on that. Let me ask you.
That's why the midfield is a priority. Absolutely.
Exactly. You touched on midfield, and you lot have been linked with Gravenberch of Bayern Munich. You've been linked with Thuram of Nice. You've been linked with Kone of Gladbach. You've been linked with Lavry of Southampton, and also Gabby Vigo of Celta Vigo. Do you know any of these players? What do you feel about them? I'm jealous if you get Thuram. I think the sky's the limit for that lad in particular. Where are you at with that?
Kefren. I'd love Kefren Thuram.
Baller, man. Baller.
I need Kefren Thuram. I will inject Kefren Thuram into my veins if he signed for Liverpool Football Club. You don't understand. Deluded, I've been starving. I have had to watch Henderson for the last 3 years hoof the ball to the opposition goal kick. That's what I've had to deal with every single time. So listen, Kefren Thuram, he's just, I don't think he's technically as unbelievable as people make out, but I think he's pace and power, which is exactly what's needed in the English Premier League, by the way. A lot of people don't realize pace and power can get you to the top even without having that much
physicality. Look at me as an Arsenal fan. We've struggled physically when we played Declan Rice at West Ham away, when we played Brighton, not in terms of them being 6 foot, but being aggressive. Everton away at the Goodison Park. Anytime, if you want to try and play football against Arsenal, we have a chance. If you try and rough us up and run up and down, that's where we struggle. So you're bang on the money with the physicality.
Someone like Decore, for example, he wouldn't survive in La Liga, but he would survive in the Prem with ease.
Exactly.
You look at him in that midfield, and he's like, I think Thuram and Kone would probably be the perfect 3 for me. The thing is, now from Liverpool's perspective, remember when I took you back to last summer? This is where Liverpool messed up this summer, and this is where we have learned from our mistake. Last summer we went like, it's either plan A or nobody. It's either Bellingham, Chouameni, or we're not going to get anyone. This is where we messed up. Now
that's dangerous, yeah.
Very dangerous, and we've seen the fruits of it this year. With this summer, what they're doing differently is they're going like, here's plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K.
The whole alphabet.
You could just go through. Lavia was looking very strong interest, and then the Thuram and Kone, and then Vega. What they're showing us is, and by the way, this is one of the few times where kind of Liverpool journalists are going public with it. This guy, I think, is the fan base is pissed off. You look at it from the perspective of, Like we're telling you, even if Thuram falls through, we've got Kone.
We've
Even
got
if
something
Kone
else.
falls through, we've got Vega. If Vega falls through, we've got Lavia. So we're just kind of we're interested in quantity and quality, as I said earlier on, and we have multiple different plans.
And there's
So
probably
I'll
other
tell you
plans and names that we don't know.
100%. And I'll tell you the truth. Here's the truth, right? If we don't sign, for example, Kefren Turam, and we go on to sign Kone and Vega, that's still an unbelievable summer. If we don't sign Kone, but we sign Turam and Vega, it's good. If we don't sign Vega, but we sign Turam and Kone, it's unbelievable. Like, it's all good as long as we're getting the players in there and they're quality players. And you know, we already know how Klopp works with players, you know. All these players that you've been watching over the last 5-6 years, the Robertsons, you know, maybe even the Konates, Trent from the academy, Fabinho when he was at Monaco, Henderson when he could actually run.
You got a lot of
Salah,
players
Mane,
that people would
Firmino.
have turned their noses up at, and now look at them. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
That's something I really like. Mo Salah, people was first it was he's a Chelsea flop, then he's a one-season wonder. He's done all right for a one-season wonder, if I do say so myself, man. Greatest one-season wonder there is, really. Right.
Yeah.
So you're right. Still on the topic of Klopp, yeah, because I look at this now. I don't disagree with the amount of players you've let go. Obviously, probably as great as Milner is, probably relied on him too much. But there's been a number of free signings walking out now. Some would say, regardless of these players, you know, Ox needed to go. You're letting free money walk out the door. Where are you at with that?
Oh, that's 100% on Klopp. And I've been someone who's balanced. I'm FSG out, not Klopp out. But at the same time, I recognize Klopp's mistakes. I'm not going to sit up here and defend Klopp to the death.
Yeah, there's
right?
no blind following. Yeah.
Yeah, some stuff Klopp does is 100% wrong. Klopp's too sentimental. Klopp's, you know, just wants to hug people all the time. Sometimes you've got to be ruthless. Sometimes you've got to let go. And even Milner came out and said in his last interview, he's like, "Oh, the manager wanted to keep me here, but the club refused." Thank God the club refused, because we just can't be keeping this guy around any longer. So
Yeah,
for
to
me,
win football games, not make friends, man.
exactly. Think about the friends you make along the way. We need trophies now, like, you know. So for me, I look at Klopp. I hold him accountable. I think Klopp has been the absolute biggest underperformer all year long at the Liverpool institution, just as an institution. The tactics, the subs, the sentimentality, him choosing to not sign a midfielder last summer, all retrospectively cost us. And he's come out publicly and said it himself. I don't need to make up stuff. You don't need to make up stuff. The man himself said it. He said, "I was wrong. You
Come
all
out
were
his
right.
own
We
mouth,
need a
yeah.
midfielder." Yeah, he said it bar for bar. So listen, for me, Klopp's underperformed, but here's the thing now, as you have seen this season, no, sorry for the stray, but the only guy to kind of win a golden medal against Pep is Klopp. So I'm going to trust the guy to take me back to the mountaintop. Because you look at the manager.
He deserves that. He deserves that. He's cleaned up everything in Europe. One bad year don't make you a bad manager. I mean, everyone can make faults. Klopp's a serious guy. Like I would want to retain faith in him. You know, for me with Klopp, the only thing is, for all his faults, as you know, it's an owner thing. Like Klopp could be right, he could be wrong. If the mentality at those above him is not to win and get Liverpool back to what Arsenal did this year in terms of second and fighting with City, what you lot have done going one better, then man's not a miracle worker, innit? He's not a biblical or religious figure.
You know, you look at the manager market, and I know your rivals, they just got Postecoglou. You look at the manager rivals, like the manager market, and the manager market is so meaty right now. There is, like, other than, I'd say Zidane, because I respect Zidane like that. Other than that, you look around, maybe Enrique, and then suddenly it's just all the options of just like, Pochettino ain't gonna excite me when I've got Klopp. You know, Postecoglou, whoever, all these Nagelsmann, none of these guys are gonna. I'm not gonna sit here and go like, "Hey guys, let's sack Klopp and go get Nagelsmann."
And then also you have to start again if you get all these guys. You have to start saying he's allowed his own players. He needs time. He needs a window. It goes all full circle. And as an Arsenal fan, I've been there.
And all this, and here we go again.
Exactly, exactly.
Years. We already know, man. We already know. So I'm gonna stick with him. I'm gonna stick with Klopp.
No, Klopp deserves all of that, man. Really and truly. I wanted to ask you before we wrap this up. Yeah, obviously you would have seen the tweet where I asked people for questions. I think we've got a big up Ryan. Forgive me for mispronunciation. He has said the centre back situation at Liverpool. How many Dons do you think we get, and who might we sell? So that's obviously for you.
I think we signed one centre back. Ryan, big up
one
Ryan as well. Yeah, I think we signed one. Yeah.
Oh, you just said that 4 of them are injury prone and that.
Yeah, but we will sign one though. I don't think we need more than one.
Well, no, to be fair, Van Dijk, Konate sick. Probably need one. You probably need about 3. Fabinho could play there. Maybe if you could get a cheap one that's of a suitable standard.
But here's
Fair
the thing,
enough.
remember when you mentioned the Europa League earlier? I don't think Klopp's going to take that seriously.
You don't need to until you get out of the group, and unless you lot are moving crazy, you'll get out of the group.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Van Dijk, Salah, Alisson, Trent.
Yeah, Matic, Gomez, them man, Timikas, them man can play in that. They've got about 6 games there for them. They can do that.
Exactly. Group stages is done in 6 games, and then you've only got the kind of the knockout stages till April. So
unless you finish second, yeah.
Yeah, if this was the Champions League, I'd say get me 2 centre backs. But because it's the Europa, with all due respect, I'm gonna say 1 is good enough.
You'll probably part that up until January next summer.
Yeah,
really.
3 serious ones in the Prem, and then you can have the other 2 kind of play in the Europa League, in the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, like that.
I agree. You're right, still. So yeah, that's that. Question for Liverpool. Double big up Pablo. Question for Arsenal. He said, "What transfers will it take for next season for Arsenal to go win the league or Champions League?" That's a double-edged sword, because you're not only fighting for the league, you're fighting this monster in Pep Guardiola. What I would say, the biggest things we could actually do are actually not in the transfer market. I think mentality is improved at this football club, but if you're talking mentality of champions, we can't go to Anfield and bottle a 2-goal lead. We can't do the same against West Ham. We can't have the crumbling that we had at the end of the season. So, and actually, I'm not surprised by how we drop points against you lot or West Ham or whatever, because games that have been one-way traffic, like to a degree, us against you, like the Emirates, the game against Brighton away where we've won and conceded dumb goals, where it's been like a convincing scoreline. They've been there. So I think the best things we can do is have that champions mentality. Be mentioned as a team that is great defensively, because you're not. If you was to mention Arsenal of last season, you'd say we're one of the best attacking teams in the Prem. We play good football, all of that stuff. You don't mention defense. We need to be in that conversation. So I would say that it's difficult in it, because as like you said earlier with Liverpool and Klopp, if you are smart and you get our very own Andy Robertson, for example, Ronaldo at the time, Salah, all of them guys that were not really rated, Mane, and you get them together, suddenly you've got a decent group. But for me, midfield's got to be addressed. I think we need 2 midfielders, like whether it's Declan Rice, Caicedo, Lavia, whoever. Just once the season starts, 2 midfielders as a minimum. We need a right-sided centre-back. We saw what happened. We need a right-back to play with or instead of Benjamin White. If you can do that, and that's done, and there's money, I think we need a winger. Saka is playing far too many games to a slight degree. And if you could get a more physical striker, because ironically, against you lot at Anfield, when we took off Jesus, I thought he was in trouble because we had no outlet. You know, Van Dijk up against Trossard, it's not the game for a false 9. He's not going to win too many, if any, in the air. So I would say that. He said, question for Liverpool, with the correct, I assume he thinks he's saying, with the correct signings, can Liverpool challenge/win the league, or will it take time?
Yes, we can. I look at us more as a Chelsea. You know, remember the Chelsea that kind of finished 10th and then went on to win the league? I don't know, because the spine is there. If we sell a Salah or we sell a Trent or we sell a Alisson, I'm like, okay, fair enough. This needs time. But since the spine is all
the bulk of it is there, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to surround the spine with good players, and I think we can definitely win it. But it depends. Listen, here's the thing with Liverpool Football Club. In the first 10 games, I already know what we're on. In the first 10 games, we could go on a winning streak. We could win 9 out of 10, draw 1, blah, blah, blah. I know we're actually serious this year. That first 10 games starts, and it's like 6 wins, 4 losses, 6 wins, 2 draws, blah, blah, blah. I already know we're not on nothing. So for me, in the first 10 games, I know regarding the whole title race. But I think we can win it. We definitely can win it, specifically given Europa League. I'm looking at August till April as 1 game a week. 1 game a week with the serious team with Jurgen Klopp. So I think we can do it. I really think we can do it. And I predict a City little bit of a drop off. Unless they go get Kimmich, then we're all screwed.
I hope they have a drop off, man. I just think we're all screwed until Pep leaves, man. I think when Pep leaves, they'll obviously still be City, have a quality team, but the man's a madman, isn't it? Like, what can you say about him? Last question for you via the Twitters. He said, question for you. Do you think next season could be Klopp's final season at Liverpool if they don't finish in the top 4? And what is the general view amongst the Liverpool supporters in that scenario?
If they don't finish we don't finish in the top 4, then of course there's a possibility. You know, people turn on him, stuff like that. Listen, we support Liverpool Football Club. You know, before Klopp, during Klopp, inshallah, after Klopp. So for me, I look at Jurgen Klopp, unbelievable manager. Won us everything there is to win. However, you look at next season, I think we finish outside the top 4, then forget about us fans. Then I think maybe ownership even start asking questions.
Pull the trigger. Yeah, financially, you're going to start taking a hit.
Yeah, they've already and listen, you know this because the FSG and the Glazers and the Cronkies are all cousins.
They
You
all,
know
yeah,
this.
their kids all go to the same school and whatnot. Yeah,
Listen, when their pockets are affected is when they're mad.
that's when
I'm
that's when
telling you,
action is being taken. Yeah, it's like when
you
Emre
know,
left. It's because there was no bums on seats at the Emirates. You gotta go.
you know this is an Arsenal fan. If Arteta gets top 4 for the next 5 years, they ain't ever gonna sack him. If
They'll
Klopp
be
gets
cool
top
with that.
4 for
I
the
think
next
the
5
only
years,
ambition to win the title is actually on Arteta. I like what the Kroenkes are doing
yeah.
now because they're finally doing it. I do like the fact that we see Josh. I do think Josh wants to do a lot more, but I think the ambition is just driven a lot more by Arteta because he says things and he can be quite passive aggressive. Like in January, he kept saying we need to maximize the market. And while I'm not Arteta Edu or know anything, it doesn't seem like he gets all of his top targets. Or when it's someone that's a protracted saga, like the Caicedos, like Douglas Luiz, like Rafinha, we don't get over the line. So you're fully right on that. The next one, he said the feasibility of Arsenal getting Caicedo, and if none, which clubs are realistically going to snatch him up? For me, I think everyone in the top 6 should be looking at him. I think Newcastle should be giving Brighton whatever they want. Him and Gomares could be lit. Arsenal give them what they want. He could be going Chelsea. I think he'd be great at Liverpool long term for that Fabinho role. United tried to buy him when Brighton did. They'd be silly not to go for that. Don't think there's a single team that won't be interested in Caicedo. My guess is he goes to Chelsea. I think it's very difficult to get Rice or Caicedo, let alone both. But I hope I'm positively surprised. Businessman Settings has said Champions League preview. What do you make of Inter versus City? Treble on the line. Greatness potentially for Pep and them, man.
I have hope. Without hope, there is nothing left in life.
What in Lukaku?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna give you the 3 painful scenarios. But look, here's the thing: 2 Italian clubs have already lost 2 European finals.
This is it. It don't look good, bro.
Fiorentina, Inter. It's time to bring the pride back to Italy. Let me just
Hope
say
so.
this.
I hope so.
It's time. I cannot see City win that Champions League. I just can't. I want
Yes, you think about how you feel. I've seen, and that'll be another English team without my team. I'm just outside the club, man. I don't want it to happen. I do think it's going to happen, but yeah, man.
I wanted Arsenal to win the league this year. I don't want City
my guy.
to win. And I look at City now in the Champions League and just don't want. There's 3 scenarios. I want City to lose on penalties. I want City to lose 1-0 with an Edin Dzeko winner because they sing his name every week and he's a former City player. That would be the most
poetic justice.
dagger. That would be so beautiful. And number 3, you touched on it, Lukaku. You know, the stallion rides through in Turkey and it's 1-0 and Inter Milan just park the bus at the back
and just do what they got to do.
3 painful scenarios. I'd take any of them right now. Thing is, let me just tell you this on a real level. I'm so happy AC Milan ain't in this final because this.
Trust me, I'm happy. I was going to say that. Yep.
This
Inter have far better chance.
Inter are disciplined. They've got midfielders who can play football like Brozovic, like Barella. So it's not just
tactically, they're a lot better.
They're disciplined. They're tactically adept, and they've got the park the bus gene. They can park the bus if needed, if required, and they're good on the counter. So I think I give Inter a chance and a hope 100%, and actually predict that they do win it.
I hope you're right, man. I just think that when I look at when Liverpool recently won the champs and the Prem, when I look at Arsenal with the Invincibles, when you look at United with the treble or any title winning side under Ferguson, when you look at when Leicester won the league, I always feel some City as well at times. There's sometimes where you watch the games and it looks like they might lose, but they get over the line and it just feels like everything in life is working. For me, it just feels now that is City's time. It's City's time to be etched in history. And sometimes you can't go against it, innit? I hope to be wrong. Like you said, I'm happy that Inter are there ahead of AC. AC would have got probably 3-4-0 in the first half. I'd still be a bit pessimistic on Inter, but as you said, they're a lot better tactically. They're a lot better technically. Their team's a bit more of a functional unit. I think they have a lot more collective threats. They can bring Lukaku off the bench. Laturo's fighting to win not only a World Cup and a cup in Italy, potentially the Champions League. And in life, someone always favors an underdog. You know, if he was to go to the bookies or betting shops, probably Inter Milan's not going to have favorable odds. This is where it could happen. You know, stranger things have happened in life, bro. Stranger things.
Inter. Let's go, man.
I think we're all Italian tomorrow, man. I think we're all Italian, fam. I can't lie. Last question. I don't even know if this is a question. Arteta's apprenticeship is over, and since he's our long-term manager, which are the areas he needs to improve upon keeping last season as the base? Well, if we just focus on last season, I think, and you probably get it with Klopp or have got it with Klopp, I feel too many people say, oh, this player needs to play, that player needs to play. You've got to rotate. I don't want rotation for rotation's sake. But what I will say is, once we get to the turn of the year, like December, January, and all the cups start coming into it, I do think Arteta could be a lot more flexible. I don't know if he trusts all his players, but you either trust them or you bring players in you do trust. I would like to see Arteta navigate multiple cups a lot better. Fair enough, we made a lot of changes against City, and that was probably our best performance against them, but we're out. Europa League is another disappointment. You know, Sporting Lisbon across 2 legs, Villarreal, Olympiacos. I don't think we've learned. And I would say sometimes, maybe because where we're at as a team, we're maybe a bit too fixated on stuff. Like I look at Kieran Tierney now. Maybe if we had Trent who can do the inverted right back role, maybe we just play Tierney and it doesn't really matter. But I think you can't really demand a man that's more of an organic left back to play like that. Teach him if he can do it, why not? But we're very fixated on certain things, so that's what I want to learn. And I think if we get rid of Xhaka, I'm kind of dispelling my own point, but I would say be a lot more harsher, because you know there's a lot of players, unfortunately, that can't go over the journey. They might be able to help us, and you've probably seen it as Klopp has steadily progressed. There was players that were playing week in, week 100%. Out. Gradually, they got phased out. So I would say that really, and he's got to make us better defensively. Way better defensively, because although I believe Saliba being injured obviously harmed us, it just highlighted our frailties, because if one centre back is out, you're in issues. If one left back kills your build-up play, you're in issues, especially if we want to be more than a top 4 team, and that's what we want to do in it. If we're just focused on getting top 4, Arteta's pass with flying colours, the players pass with flying colours, fantastic. But if you don't improve, as you know, you fall off a level. So I would say what Arteta could do is it's all on the training ground, really. Signings are one thing. And that's one reason why Zinchenko and Jesus and them man have worked, because we've had a blueprint. So, yeah, his apprenticeship's over. The Wolves are going to be out, because I don't think too many people think Arsenal finish second, but there's an expectation now. You're not just an unknown entity, a breath of fresh air. So him and the players are going to have to deal with that, innit? And I love Arteta. I like what you're doing. I'm an Arsenal fan, though, so I call it as I see it. So, again, he probably will get a new deal, but the Wolves are going to be out for you, especially if we crumble again. Like, you know, I hope it's a good omen, because we crumbled the season before last with the top 4. Then we got it, crumbled the league. Hopefully, you know, if the footballing gods are shining on us, you know, first title in the Emirates. But it's a long season and we'll have to see in August, man. But hey, it's just been fantastic having you here. Obviously, people, by the time you're listening to this, all this information is in the description. Let people know once again where, you know, where they can find you. What content have you got coming out today or whenever?
Thanks for having me, first of all.
My guy.
My guy. Everyone in the comments, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video as well. Follow Deluded as well. He's actually far from deluded, funnily enough. I remember seeing
people say that all the time, but then you are so deluded. So if I had £1 for every time, I might buy my signings myself.
You can find me on Twitter at the$Sam6. My channel's at This Is Football. I've got probably a McAllister video dropping today. I've got, of course, the watch along tomorrow where I will be in Inter colors. I'm just trying to find an Inter kit. If not, I'm gonna find a dark blue kit. Nothing I hate more than Man City currently, or their fan base, which have suddenly spawned in our life.
Yeah, man, started finding them around now.
Suddenly you're going outside. I'm like, I'm a City fan. You're a City fan? Name a City player from 15 years ago. And they don't know. They'll probably tell you Ashley Cole. They think
Danny Mills or something, man.
Blue. It's just horrible, man. But thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and time flew by, and it was an absolutely great time as well. Thank you so much.
No, man, we have to run it back, but let me let you get out of here, man. So yeah, like the man said, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button on the channels, do all of that. Make sure you're following him on Twitter and all of that stuff. We're gonna love and leave you lot, man. Peace out. Come on.
There's always just that active red line defenders. I think it's like.